Hello and welcome to the Daily Space for today, Thursday, February 27th, 2020. I am your host, Dr. Pamela Gay, and I am here to put science in your brain. Today, we start with a look at Vesta, the number 2 asteroid in the main belt and the largest of the not even a dwarf planet objects in the inner solar system. This 525-kilometer across rock was imaged in detail by the Dawn mission and can be chemically studied thanks to a wealth of meteorites that have been broken off through past impacts and flung at Earth. In a new paper in Geochemica at CosmoQuest Acta, scientists study the history of Vesta by looking at these samples and the craters they may have come from. The lab analysis of these meteorites showed that Vesta was volcanically active 30 million years after its formation, 4.6 billion years ago. It wasn't anticipated that this small of an object could have volcanism for this long. In general, the heat needed for liquid magma to exist is either left over from the formation of an object, and Vesta cooled off quickly, or it comes from the decay of radioactive elements like aluminum-26. By the time 30 million years had passed, all that aluminum would have decayed away. In trying to explain the prolonged volcanism, they speculate that maybe magma survived in slower cooling regions of the asteroid's crust. Now, this is all cool science, but it actually isn't the most interesting part of the research. The interesting part is how those magma-turned rock samples made it to Earth. It turns out that about 1 billion years after its formation, Vesta experienced a large impact that dug a deep crater where those volcanoes had been and tossed samples of that region our direction. They weren't all flung this way randomly, however. The team behind this paper, led by Fred Jordan, believed that all that dug-up debris would have formed a rubble pile asteroid. Think Bennu or Ryugu. And this configuration protected the material until in recent times it couldn't get knocked off. And until in recent times it could get knocked off and sent to Earth as meteorites. So, to sum this crazy tale up, 4.5 billion years ago, Vesta formed. And for 30 million years, it had active volcanoes. At some point after the volcanism turned off, something large hit Vesta right where those last erupting volcanoes happened to have been located. And that event carved up a massive amount of material. And that material then gravitationally came together to form a rubble pile asteroid that protected that material from those volcanoes for billions of years until something knocked that material off and sent it to Earth, where it was found by someone among all the other rocks on our planet. It was identified as meteorites and chemically matched to the composition of Vesta, and then studied, and now published in a research paper. Go team. This shows just what has to sometimes happen for science to happen. And now we know it took longer for Vesta to completely cool off and solidify than we previously thought. Now, I'm not generally that into rocks, but I have to admit that we can learn an amazing amount of science by studying all the different physical properties of rocks. In another paper centered on rocks, we learned that our own Earth may have had a massive magma ocean 4 billion to 2.5 billion years ago. Our world is still hot. Nuclear decays across the depths of our planet continue to generate heat that churns our planet's internal heat flows. Today, this churning magma, specifically Earth's outer liquid iron nickel core, plays a key role in generating Earth's magnetic field. Historically, however, this was not the source of our magnetic field. Figuring out the origins of Earth's magnetic field hasn't been easy. And scientists have struggled to figure out how our planet went from a generic lump of melty rock to being a coherent planet with a well-defined magnetic field. In new research coming out in Nature Communications, planetary scientists have used computer models to figure out that the early Earth would have had a massive area of molten silicates, minerals that include silicon. Lead author Lars Struxrud modeled how these minerals behave at high temperatures and found that they are conductive enough to generate a magnetic field while these silicates cooled and solidified. And while this happened over the Earth's first billion years, they were liquid for long enough to allow the Earth's increasingly turbulent core to reach a point where it could take over magnetic field generation. That handoff from the Earth's magnetic field coming from a liquid silicate dynamo to later coming from a liquid iron-nickel dynamo allowed our world to have magnetism from as early as possible and more or less continually to the present day. This has protected our evolving atmosphere and made life possible. This physics doesn't look like it will be unique to our world either. While Earth is unusually dense because of how it was formed and has an unusually large iron-nickel core, this kind of silicate magma-driven magnetism could be common on super-Earths in other solar systems. These larger worlds would have longer-lasting silicate magma seas. These are also the most common smaller worlds that we've found. And we now see amazing ways these worlds could, be a bit safer for life. Now, our final story of the day has nothing to do with rocks. It's a pretty picture of the Planetary Nebula CVMP-1. This, leaned over hourglass shape was formed by a star similar to our sun, or perhaps a bit bigger, that puffed off its outer atmosphere toward the end of its life. And then that star collapsed down, leaving a cooling white dwarf in its place. This white dwarf is currently 130,000 degrees Celsius and gives off enough high-energy light to ionize the gas you're seeing. As the white dwarf cools, this nebula will eventually fade away. But for now, it can be seen in striking detail in this new image from the Gemini South Telescope in Chile. From formation to death, it's thought planetary nebulae may persist only 10,000 years. And scientists studying this image believe that CVMP-1 may be an elder planetary nebula that will allow scientists to study the later millennia of planetary nebula evolution. And this pretty picture rounds out our show for today. This has been The Daily Space. I am your host, Dr. Pamela Gay, and I wrote today's episode, which will be produced by Susie Murph. We are a production of the Planetary Science Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to exploring our solar system and beyond. We are here thanks to the generous contributions of people like you. Your bits, your subs, your, patronage at patreon.com/CosmoQuestX is what keeps us going. If you have some extra to give, it would really help us keep going. We pay our staff, Annie and Susie, to do hosting, to do production, and to do all the research that goes into every episode. Our goal is to get this show so that, we're actually paid to do all the things we do. But to do that, we need your help. I'm going to be updating our Patreon pages with new goals and showing how with your help we can grow and, start doing interviews, start doing more to bring more science to you. So thanks for all that you do. And if you can't support us financially, we totally get that. Please just share the word, get other people in here. And one of the best ways you can help us out is actually just to leave us a review. Go to your favorite podcast player, look up The Daily Space, and tell the world, hopefully how you love this show. Be honest. That's all we ask. Okay, I am now going to hang around and answer your questions live right here on twitch.tv. Let's see what we've got. Scrolling to the top, Wayne Johnson says, hi. Hi. I just confused Malachi. Brexit Denier says, good afternoon, CosmoQuest X. Hello, CosmoQuest X. I am CosmoQuest X. Hello, Brexit Denier. Oof, I'm having a Friday where my brain just refuses to turn on. But I heard a noise. And the dogs heard the noise. K. Baruch has subscribed to Tier 1. And we have a dog cam. And I bought a rug for the dogs. Go, go doggos, go. There, I did a really bad throw. Thank you so much. And Ruff's Matt has, I think that's Ruff Matt. It's scrolled. Ruff's Matt has subbed to Tier 1 for 11 months. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. All right, I'm going to go answer your questions. Thank you. I'm going to occasionally just throw random bits at the dogs. Hello, Guido. Hello, Paranor. Hello, Ironheart. Hello, Keeper. Hello, Trekker Kev. We don't have a barbecue command. I would like barbecue. This is the problem with recording right before I eat lunch. Like literally, I go from my studio here in the basement to the kitchen and make lunch. I do not pass go. I go straight to the refrigerator and make lunch. So I am hungry when I record. And then you go talking about food. Anyways, continuing on. Let's see. Hello, Kevlar. Hello, Larry. Hello, Paranor. I think I already said hello, but I can say hello twice. Hello, Broken Symmetry. Just going to bounce things off of dogs. Hello, Crispy Fried Man. Thank you for your Tier 1 sub. You made me smile while I was recording. Thank you. Rocks are important, says Keeper of Maps. I do not have pizza. Paranor has pizza. Hello, Henny Zvorverp. Let's see. Larry asks, have we found exoplanets in or about Planetary Nebula? No, but I don't think we've been doing the kinds of detailed observations that would be needed. In order to find them, you'd have to study the precise motions of the white dwarf in their center. And in general, white dwarfs don't have a lot of spectral lines. So it's really hard to precisely measure their motions. What spectral lines they do have are fairly broad because they have a huge surface gravity. This means white dwarfs are pretty much the most annoying thing to try and, well, precisely measure to see if they're getting yanked to and fro by a planet. And you couldn't really, theoretically, it's possible to catch a transit, but statistically, it's highly improbable. A white dwarf is only the size of the moon, and the probability of getting the precise alignment over and over for us to see a planet transiting in front of a white dwarf, it's just not going to be observable. And I get the dogs a nice rug to lay on, and of course, both dogs are like, I'm going to lie on the cement. All right. And poor Malachi is stuck in the cables. Okay. Now you can go under the cables, dude. Now you can go underneath. Here, go look. See, you can go under. He's like, no, I demand you just hand me bits, and I will do that. All right. Let's see what other questions we have in here. Back to interviews. More space. More space. Looking for more questions. I'm totally having a Friday on a Thursday, Larry. I'm totally having a Friday on a Thursday. So Ironheart 50 asks, do we know how Mars lost its magnetic field, or did it not really have one to begin with? So we know it had a magnetic field because we see it basically echoed in rocks that solidified while it had a magnetic field and now have natural magnetism in those rocks. We actually can measure this with the InSight mission. Now, it doesn't still have an active magnetic field being generated. So all it has is like this fossilized bits of magnetism. It's as though people scattered consistently aligned magnets all throughout the crust of Mars. And it wasn't a someone, it was Mars that did that. Now, unfortunately, Mars is tiny. And just like a really tiny ham will cool all the way to the center faster than a really big ham. And I'm using ham. You could also say tofu. It's anything that's like big and holds heat and you're going to burn your mouth on if you eat the centerpiece. So that big hot thing is going to hold on to heat faster than a small one. A loaf of bread is the same thing. I should have gone with a loaf of bread. I don't actually eat ham. I do eat bacon, but that's like my one pork exception. I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to stick to science. I'm hungry. It's a problem. So Mars is tiny. It cooled off. And when it cooled off, it no longer had that liquid magma that would be churning in a way that with moving ions, moving charged particles, you end up generating magnetic field. So no churning ionized particles, no magnetic field. Yeah, I did Wednesday. It ate my brain. It's true, but that's okay. We're a team. We sometimes we do what it takes to keep the show going. We will be taking off the week before the Lunar and Planetary Sciences Conference. That's 2 weeks from now. Each year there is an amazing meeting in the Houston area that I'm very sad to not get to go to this year that brings together most of the world's planetary science community. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year with coronavirus because there usually are large contingents from both Japan and China, as well as some South Koreans. This was particularly notable the year of the tsunami hitting in northern Japan because there was a large group of people from Japan who just ended up sitting in the big open area watching CNN up on the convention center screens, and we took care of them. We made sure they had places to stay if they couldn't go home immediately. We made sure they'd be okay afterwards. It's a good community, and this particular conference has infinite coffee, so that's also a thing. So good science, good community, and lots of press conferences. So the week of the Lunar and Planetary Sciences Conference, I'll be staying home. And just like we did with the American Astronomical Society meetings, we're going to be working to bring you the press conferences. But instead of having me awkwardly coming to you from a hallway, I'll be coming to you from the same place I co-stream. So in preparation for all that to happen, I'm taking the week off. Annie's taking the week off. Susie's actually traveling somewhere. So we'll be here next week, taking a week off, and then doing triple duty the week after. So, yes. Keeper's thinking it might be a French toast kind of day. I have waffles in the freezer. I didn't eat waffles yesterday. I may do that today. So Hanny asks, could the magnetic field of Jovian planets protect the moons? So the issue is that Jupiter's magnetic field is so much more violent than anything that our world's atmosphere experiences. We can actually see magnetic connections and ion streams and all sorts of crazy physics going on, connecting Jupiter's magnetic field with the worlds that are orbiting it. And in general, this is bad for those worlds. But it protects them from solar radiation? Yeah, it's just they're a little too close to Jupiter. It's a dangerous universe out there, people. The universe wants to kill you. Guido is eating leftover pizza and a big salad. I envy you. I envy you. So Paranor is reminding me of D&D. Yeah, I need to take that off. I turned it on while I was writing the script. And then, yeah, I just decided to keep it on until I was done streaming today. I cannot be trusted with the do not disturb mode. I will forget to turn it off. It is true. So Crispy Fried Man, he still has a disturbing username, asks, have there been times that unrealism has ruined sci-fi for you? So instead of going to the standard things that every scientist calls out, in a moment of completely random shouting at the television screen, Star Trek Enterprise, which has a very un-Star Trek theme song that I, unlike Susie, actually really like, although I admit it is very un-Star Trek-like. Multiple times during the show, my husband and I, we a few years ago rewatched all the Star Treks, all of them in order. Don't do that unless you like. It was, yeah, we watched all the Star Treks ever made in order. And there's times that people are dropping out of warp 200 meters off the bow of another ship going at 5 kilometers per second, which means you hit the other ship. The units make no sense. So if you ever watch Star Trek Star Trek Enterprise, listen to the units that I swear the writer's room just like haphazardly threw into the script with no consideration to the fact that they were destroying the spacecraft. And so my husband was subjected to much shouting about units. It's such a small thing. And clearly I am still angry about this. Hello, Bill Nash. I'm moving on. Hello, Larry, who asks, all planetary nebulae have white dwarfs in the center. Yes. Yeah, that's just how you make them. You take a star like our sun, up to 8 times our sun's mass, and when it dies, its core shrinks down and its atmosphere drifts away. In the final years, as it's a giant or a supergiant, it will actually blow off most of that atmosphere, creating that cloud of material around it that then gets subjected to ionizing radiation from that super hot stellar core that's left behind. Bill Nash comments, Mars had a magnetic field, but the government sold it to a private company to make up for budget shortfalls. The debt was never reconciled, so it was foreclosed on and seized. And that's how capitalism killed Mars. I love that. If you could, someone screen capture that and drop it into Discord, I want to keep that forever. Oh, I have a keyboard. I can do this. I may have also had too much coffee and not enough food prior to streaming today. All right, so let's figure out how to screen capture that, shall we? There we go. That is my new favorite thing to have happened in chat. Thank you, Bill Nash. All right, so let's go back to scrolling. Keeper's like, no, you can't substitute tofu for ham. I'm only talking about in thermodynamic experiments. You can substitute tofu for protein and call it tofu. Salad pizza is a thing. I do not know this is a thing. All right. Who's going to open the first ham shack on Mars? Limp Rimble writes. I don't know. Let's see. Scrolling for more questions. I hope you want a spacecraft around you as you're strapped into a chair and blasted into space. You need more than a chair. Oh, good. Paranor is offering to help with the meeting simulcast. I appreciate that. We will be working on a schedule as soon as everything is announced. Keeper of Maps is on his way to Jupiter, Florida soon. Tuesday was Pancake Day, Strove Day, Fat Tuesday. I acknowledged it, but didn't leave my house. So by way of acknowledging it, I went, I still haven't been to Carnival. My fantasy is to someday go to Venice for Carnival. problem with Jupiter, Axtiphus writes, is that the moon's being ripped apart by Jupiter's gravity. They're not so much being ripped apart as squished, like squishy balls, which is also problematic. Scrolling. Bill Nash writes, Star Trek Enterprise was the best episode of Quantum Leap ever. So when I was in graduate school, I was working part-time at a stables. Basically, one of my really good friends owned an equestrian facility, and I'd crash at her house on weekends to abuse her laundry machine and work in the barn. And she taught me how to ride, and eventually she rescued a horse for me. By which I mean there was an amazing horse that had had an injury, so it was no longer capable of competing at the highest levels. And she ended up basically getting him because people didn't want to keep feeding him because horses eat a lot. And since I'm not a remarkable rider, I didn't need him to do remarkable things, and he became my best buddy. Now, he came with the registered name Quantum Leap. And you can actually find YouTube videos of him competing with the rider Deborah Dolan Sweeney. He was an amazing show jumper. Now, you don't generally yell across a pasture, "Hey, Quantum Leap!" That's a lot to yell. His barn name was Ziggy. So whoever had this horse when it was a baby horse, I adore that human. Anyways. Moving on. Yeah, I torture Kyle by knowing a lot about science. He's a very good musician. Unit shaming. I agree. Yes. Van Mill, sometimes you have to shame the units. So Ramphoricus writes, yes, nearly every technical term is thrown in randomly after they write the script. Yeah, they're getting better. Dr. Erin Mack, who's occasionally here on occasionally here on Twitch, and she's always over on Twitter. She's been doing a lot of consulting on Star Trek Discovery, so they're getting their physics better. I can't speak to the bioscience. Scrolling. So Fenmel writes, never too much coffee. This is true, except sometimes I end up coming across as an easily distracted Australian shepherd when trying to host this show. And that's a bit much for anyone. So Limp Rimble writes, Ellie Arroway didn't need a chair. It's true, she didn't need a chair, but she did need a containment vessel. You really need something around you when you go to space. Larry comments, I heard the Pope wants us to give up trolling for Lent. Yes, so Pope Francis, who actually has a Twitter account that I believe he's the one using, and is, well, young for a pope and technically literate. This is someone who has the equivalent of a master's in chemistry. He basically said that from now until Easter, if you're looking for something to stop doing, stop trolling people. And I've seen some pretty cool essays out there about, for instance, how there's a Jewish, I forget the phrase for it, but it's a rule with a cool sounding name I can't remember for how one should never speak ill of another. And so the idea is don't gossip, don't be mean, don't troll. And there was something. Rocket Sage is now hosting. Welcome anyone coming over from the Rocket Sage stream. Here are some doggos. Here are some doggos. Hello, Rocket Sage. Can we get a shout out for Rocket Sage, one of the, well, leading forces behind the formation of the Knowledge Fellowship, which is where I find all the people that we are going to host over to on a regular basis. I am apparently overcaffeinated and underfed. So as soon as I'm done streaming, I'm going to go eat lunch. Larry Weird comments, my cardiologist limited me to 2 cups a day, so I use a large cup. Yeah, my doctor encouraged the same. I need coffee because I have low blood pressure. But if you have too much coffee all at once, it can cause anxiety, which isn't good when you have an extremely stressful career. So, basically, after going, what are your sources of stress? And answering my doctor honestly, he recommended I avoid anxiety causing amounts of caffeine. So, yeah, yeah. Fenmill's like, Rocket Sage, you should be teaching. She teaches. She does. Um, so Crispy Fried Man comments, if you want to stop trolling, then you have to stop people from getting trolled. It's true. And this is why we need so many good moderators out there. And I have to say, hats off to all the mods in this community that have made it a safe place for such a diversity of people to hang out and talk science. Um, so somebody, I thought it was Larry and then it scrolled. Yeah, it was Larry, says, does that mean that after Easter we troll at will? Well, the hope often is that with the things that you give up for Lent, one of two things, and hopefully both things will happen. One is as you're struggling to adapt to a new habit, you're going to think constantly about the importance of why you're giving something up for Lent. And the second thing is that it will become an actual habit and you'll become a better person for what you've done during those 40 days. Now, the reality is, in our modern society, quite often what you give up for Lent has simply become a humble brag. And I hope that if people say, I'm going to give up trolling, that's not something they're going to humble brag about, and they'll simply change their behaviors. So here's to hoping that maybe a few asshats out there on the internet will change their behavior and make it a permanent habit to change their behavior. Ironheart comments, anxiety about not having enough coffee. That has happened in this household. Best mods. So Janderloon says, I can't stand the smell of coffee, so I go for other sources of energy or sleep deprivation. It's, you have to find the right coffee. Like we have a graduate student currently staying with us because support your grad students any way you can. I crashed at a prof's house for a long time in grad school. It's my turn to pay it forward. And the other day, he was making the most amazing smelling coffee in the kitchen. And I was like, what is this? I must purchase more. And so it turns out I adore the smell of hazelnut coffee. And now I know. So you just have to find what's right for you. And there may not be a right for you. It's like for some people, cilantro is never the right choice. Let's see. Ooh, Paranor comments that they had a real troll during the simulcast of the Weekly Space Hangout yesterday. That's no good. I'll talk to you about that one later. Bill Nash uses troll powers for great comedy. Well, sometimes that's a thing. Okay. So we have gone down a random path. Larry shouts, Rudamaya rocks! Rudamaya is a coffee house in Austin where I have to admit I wrote most of my master's thesis. They have live readings, live poetry, live music. It is the ultimate hipster, beatnik, I don't know what you'd call it today, coffee house. So I found it before hipsters were even a thing, which I think is in itself a hipster thing. Yes. Oh, the coffee house is no more. Oh no. That is sad. It was next door to a pub that I had a friend that worked at. And it was a really, not my scene kind of a pub. But I would go from Maruta Maya's when it closed, and it closed about an hour and a half before the pub did, and go hang out at the pub. And yeah. No, it was an old Irish pub that I now can't even remember the name of. All right. Anyways, I am now rambling. I'm rambling, folks. I will be back here tomorrow which is Friday. I have no sense of what news there will be, but there is a big X-ray release I haven't read waiting to be read. So I suspect tomorrow will be a different form of a high energy podcast. I will be back tomorrow again with Astronomy Cast, and then it's the weekend. One more week after that, and then we're going to take a spring break right here at Daily Space in preparation for the Lunar and Planetary Sciences Conference. So go forth wherever you are and have a fabulous morning, evening, or afternoon. And, well, this has been the Daily Space. I'm your host, Dr. Pamela Gay, and we are a production of the Planetary Science Institute, with Susie doing the heavy lifting to make sure every episode gets out and brought to you. The Planetary Science Institute is a 501c3 nonprofit, which means your donations are tax deductible where the law allows, and we turn everything you give into science. The Planetary Science Institute is dedicated to exploring our solar system and beyond. And we are brought to you by you. We are supported through your bits, your subs, and your donations over at patreon.com/CosmoQuestX. So thank you for, well, keeping the science flowing. And to say it again, wherever you are in the world, have a fabulous morning, evening, or afternoon. And I'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.